just said something very interesting off air that he's actually one of the oldest MPs currently, which makes him the perfect guy to help us understand this conversation very further. And I did say earlier on, last week on the Freedom Square, somebody said, "Kante me gona kganya gore Botswana ha ena madi a le batla go ntha le re opposition ne sa itse gore sa kgomo sa government se ntsang." And yes, in fact, sometime last week, was it 2 weeks ago, President Boko made statement that they didn't know how broke or how dire the situation was in terms of financial accounts at Botswana. But contrary to that, former President Masisi also has said, no, the country is not broke. The ruling party must do something. Go itsenyetsa ledi la one. Mme hala se itseng ke gore re tlogetse madi a eleng gore one ana ka tswa ha a tsena hana. So they must stop using the phrase the country is broke, because the country in fact is not broke. So which one is which? Would love to engage or have you part of the conversations at +267 395 6962. Of course, we're also available on our WhatsApp at +267 395 6962.
Shaka, wait. Power to engage your world is on 97.6 FM.
Arang me wa ditantega le bua ka event ya gago, the DJ, the venue, the decor. Stop stressing. Montero Consulting is here to ensure everything runs smoothly. They are a one-stop events shop. From guest RSVP to stunning decor, bar and waiting services, event security to client gifting, they've got it all covered. Get in touch with them on 76946496 or email bookings@montero.co.bw. Montero Consulting, always remembered.
March Madness is in the air. Wacky weekend deals everywhere with offers like 12.5 kg Blue Crystal White Sugar 155.95, 12.5 kg A1 Super Maize Meal 99.95, 200 grams Jacob's Coffee 109.95, 10s Knorr Super Sorted 33.95, 280 grams Bull Brand Corned Meat 16.95, 18s Twin Saver Luxury Toilet Rolls 2-ply 89.95, 4-liter Stay Soft Fabric Conditioner 59.95, and many more in store. Valid from the 29th to the 31st of March 2025. T's and C's apply.
Trans Cash and Carry. Bigger savings. Better living.
Kasani. Power to engage your world is on 97.7 FM. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily of the station, its management, or its advertisers.
Right, let's get straight into it. Let me take this time to welcome my guests. Hi, Honorable.
Good morning.
How are you?
All good. Thanks.
All right, you look great.
Yes, it's a Monday. You've got to try and at least feel good about it.
All right, let's get straight
no time
into
for a Blue
it.
Monday.
So I want us to look at, as part of our opening conversation, just to understand manifesto development. And I think, like I said earlier on, you are probably the best person to have this conversation with. One, you are MP, and you're one of the oldest in Parliament, and you have I did hear last week on the show somebody saying 2019 general election, actually the UDC manifesto in 2019, you're one of the people that actually drew that up.
Yes.
Is it true though?
It's correct. I'm not only one of those who drew it up. I was the lead person. I was the main person coordinating the putting together of the manifesto by UDC in 2019. So that is correct.
All right.
Yes.
So let's understand how the process. How do opposition parties put together a manifesto? What is the process like?
Okay, let's take a step back before process.
Okay.
What goes into a manifesto or party? The first thing to understand is that all parties, strictly speaking, be a clear ideological position, core values. What do we stand for? In the past, when some of us were growing up, it was normally a split between your right parties, called your more conservative, capitalist-oriented parties, and then your leftists. parties tse di tsamaelanang thata le tsamaiso ya. Okay, so that as a starting point defines gore mo manifesto tsa Congress Party from the time it first contested elections in 1999. Go taikela dilo tse di tshwanang le bo expanding the boundaries of freedom. And what form does this take? Political freedom. Botswana Congress Party in e sa dumalana le constitution ka ntse ka teng ka gore e ne ya mahela ka your first generation human rights.
Yeah.
You know, your right to freedom of speech, your right to freedom of movement, but rona le re gape there are other rights, mainly social and economic. So ga re bua ka bo mother tongue, it's our orientation.
Yeah.
We may shock some parties gore lo batla go thuba setšhaba a re se ka ra letela dipuo tse dingwe tse. Ga re bua ka economic empowerment, for us it's critical. Ga se fela gore the economy is growing, in whose favor? Because there is economic rights that we are pursuing as the Botswana Congress Party. So having laid that framework, we then go out and consult. Not really clear in our mind what is acceptable. There's a filter for every party. There should not be certainly there is a filter. There should be a filter for every party. Gore yo mogopolo yo can't pass through our filter.
And before we get into the process, again, I guess this is what caught my attention. I get the fact that you seem to be a bit of what works for the Congress Party, this side and that side, like more like in the fence.
Yes.
How were you able to compromise then with the BNF? Because I think they're more on the left side.
They are more, or they used to
No, they
be.
were on the left side.
They were on because Humpiano Ghana is not easy to tell what the UDC stands for. I agree we have the AP. Policy. I don't think you'd even know. You never heard of the word. But pragmatism.
Yeah.
Whatever works, they're okay with it.
They're practical.
They're practical.
Yeah.
A direct election of the president won't work, they'll clap hands for you. If the following month someone comes and says it actually work, they'll clap hands as well. And somewhere between there, they will make their minds. So habana an overriding framework. So it's a bit of a difficult one to say what filter did the UDC use for 2024? Because you have the AP, which ideologically is worlds apart from the BNF. You have the BPP, we know what historically has been a Pan-Africanist formation. So, I don't know. I'm not the right person to speak for them at the moment.
Yeah.
But 2019, when I was leading their manifesto, I was mainly driven by the two main components of the UDC, which were BNF and BCP. So that was the compromise between, and the BNF, to be honest, has over the years drifted more to the center, more towards the BCP position. And that is why it's not surprising. For some of the things that were not in the UDC manifesto are being pronounced by the president, BCP manifesto. And I can give you an example. The 300 Pula Child Grant.
Yeah, it was there in the BCP
BCP manifesto. It wasn't there in the UDC manifesto, but they have now adopted it. And we support that, Botswana Congress Party.
Yeah.
And I'm giving these examples of where we stand because the 300 Pula child welfare, it's about not leaving anyone behind.
So I think it's safe to say, as you're talking about, what has been implemented by the UDC, I think it's safe to say they're also a little bit more practical. And there's been that shift from the left to, like you said,
towards the BCP position.
Towards the center. Let's just call it the center.
Yes. Well, we call it our position because we are the first to pronounce openly in the Botswana politics that that's the space you want to occupy.
Does that mean, I don't know, we're digressing. Does that mean that you are, or you might be considering merging with the BDP? Because we've seen the reports.
No, not at all. We're not considering merging with the BDP. It has never been an option for us again because going into the previous elections, we had serious disagreements. Things that could not pass through our filter, they were comfortable with. Electoral reforms, I get it. Clear positions that we advocated for. So, with this marriage of convenience, if I may call it that.
Yeah.
Kana tebe gore a gore ga le dumalane, ka ditumelo. But you agree, right, look, you worship on Saturday, I worship on Sunday. Let's get together and maybe we worship Saturday midnight.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
So it's not going to happen? Is that what you're saying?
I'm just saying it's not on the table.
It's not on the table, at least for now.
It's not on the table. I mean, who would have, in politics, who would have thought for one day the UDC, ye nere kama ona le hit list wa babola, would also join hands and rule together?
Okay. Let's talk about the manifesto process, Saleshando. I want us to understand what, I mean, I think I understood, the position of the parties and why it may be as it was, at least in 2019. Because you worked on that, did you have any, data sources that you relied on as you're drawing up this manifesto? When
you draw up a manifesto, you call experts that are available in your party. Mm-hmm. Okay. And because even though I was manifesto team leader, I wasn't an expert in a number of the fields. So we call experts. Unfortunately, these parties all have people like your retired senior civil servants that you would call upon. We also have retired people from the diplomatic service that you'd call upon. We have serving people in the private sector, some experts in the economy. So we come together, we sit down, and we say, what is the state of the economy? And you're able to get a fair state of the economy by looking at different reports. Yeah. I get the government accounts, they are there on the table for you to see. The latest budget speech, normally the minister gives you all the numbers you want. So you are very well informed by the time you put pen to paper. This is the situation. I believe that if I'm given a chance, re ka hetola ka go hetola di-policy tsa puso re tsamaisa ka tsa rona re be re hetola seemo from what we think is bad, because you are normally going to an election thinking that the ruling party is not offering the best policy menu.
Downward spiral.
Yes. Rona re ka hetola seemo se ra delivera the nation to the road taking them to the promised land. Basically, that's what it is. How do you move from Egypt to your New Jerusalem? Yeah. That's the story.
So the UDC promised living wage, I think it was 15% salary increase. This was also from the 2019 manifesto. I think there was free university education at some point, and just general expanded social programs, and of course critics arguing this is not financially feasible. The state of the government account has been going on a downward spiral since 2008.
Yes,
we have to be very honest about that. Did the party have access to financial data before making these commitments in the 2019 general elections? Was it something that was feasible at the time when you were leading the manifesto?
When we were leading the manifesto in 2014, we called financial experts. Where the difficulty is, the argument, 2019. Remember, a manifesto only lasts 5 years. 2019 to 2024.
And then you have to change the strategy.
You have to review. I think it was May Unity Down, Parliamentary being very succinctly. Can ha UDC ke manifesto no dua ka Dumelang 2019 ba ite ba tsara ga 2019 le 2024 go ne le dingwe tse di ragetseng o na re go ne le dipetso tse tharo. Petso ya ntha ke COVID agere ne ya re wela re le hatsela Botswana. I think petso ya bobedi ya ibuile, if I remember well, ke go wela tase ga theko ya di diamond, particularly natural diamonds. Ke petso ya bobedi. Petso ya boraro ke gore do nna le moetelepele no go te mokgweetsi Masisi. You will now on the floor of Parliament. I think we've now reached a stage a print more money president. You are Minister of Finance or Chema, we can only manage 200 million. About no Parliament, they guys Peter, but hey, are 500? Where is the additional 300 going to come from? So UDC ignored all those things. Mogobone, Hakaraha 2019, 2024, the world stood still.
Yeah.
So that's unrealistic. what would have happened between 2019 and 2024 will be absolutely relevant ka 2024. And that is why the BCP manifesto, you then all these things into consideration. I review this year, old age 1.8. 1.8, ha ka kgonahala. Ronaldo Dumelo ka kgonahala 1.5.
Yeah.
Where did they land? Ba it's position ya BCP, more or less, ka 1.4. Re ba bolela gore 4,000 as a living wage, ha ka kgonahala ka 2024, ha ka kgonahala ka 2025, ha ka kgonahala ka 2026, because you need to first build the economy.
Yeah.
When we bar nyaha, o ka kgonahala. So in a way, it is something but to advertise marketing, ba na le sengwe se ba se bitsang deceptive advertising.
Is that what you think?
I think that's what happened. Deceptive advertising, go bua dilo tsene ba itse gore ka se ka tsa kgonahala. Gore ba ne ba sa itse gore seemo se ntseang ga se boammaruri. I remember one minister, as Minister Lawrence Okeditsar, nya ke mora ke ha se ka isa gore ke eng se di tshetseng se le maswe. A ba re bone ko health, ba ne ba sa itse gore government o kolota private practitioner medical clinics.
Is it something that you're aware of as opposition? Because I think I heard when Lawrence Okeditsa was talking about that, and I think it goes back to the question that I asked about giving access to government books before making promises. Is this something that you're aware? And I do understand when you said that they do analysis looking at what's state of the country as it is at the point leader and the manifesto thing. But my interest really is, do you have the facts as they are mo pampiring gore kana madi gayo kana gore ministry wa gore kolota bokana?
Well, look, dibuka tsa puso di teng gore di lebelele. But in the case ya ga re Okeditse, his predecessor in ele re mo Parliament wa Boteti East, former assistant minister Lela Tisitswe, o na botswa potso ko Parliament ye ne a supa gore ba kolota about $500 million to private hospitals. Mo Parliament, everyone listening. And then you come in, abore ne le re tsana mo pusong ke gone re utang kganyo ne. Ne re sa uta re le ko ntega ga Parliament. It's either the UDC is outrightly disingenuous, dishonest, and untruthful, or they were simply decided to not inform themselves, which would be irresponsible. But in any case, you don't come in and every question you had a plan that you said can take us to the promised land. Yeah. So stop telling us about we know.
Yeah.
And that's the reason you are in. You are in because
all right. It's just gone 9:50. I'm going to open up phone calls this side, +267 395 6962. Callers, send us a WhatsApp text or WhatsApp audio, also live on our Facebook page at Gabs FM.
Power to engage your world is on 96.2 FM.
A quick one, Moshe Spa is celebrating a decade of excellence in beauty, wellness, and community impact, and we want you to be part of it. Stay tuned to Gabs FM for exciting giveaways. Book a treatment at Moshe Spa at Avani on 77114642 for a chance to win vouchers, and follow us on our social media pages to stay in the loop. Let's celebrate together, because 10 years of beauty and wellness wouldn't be possible without you.
Sankoyo. Power to engage your world is on 91.4. The views and opinions expressed on this show are not necessarily of the station, its management, or its advertisers.
Right, I'm taking your phone calls this side. Gabs FM, you're live. Good morning. Hi.
Hello. Dumela mama.
Re se ke go amogela.
Ne ke utlwa motsadi ho a re like ho mona UDC ne e dana wa ena le khama ke re o le bala gore dilo ntse tsa borre Lucas le borre go botswang ga mona di eteletse pele ya ka ba tlhophile le maparlamenta nna ke la kgabola go sefare a kgabola go bodirwa mme gape motsadi ho ke batho ba di press release batho ba principal o paletswe le ke gore a re bolele gore ba ja ngwana ka situ ngwana e bong ke ra private secretary to the opposition ila opposition nothing leader of the opposition or government o mo file go lo mona secretary ba ja ngwana ka situ ya itse re ke batho ba di press release ya no paletswe ke go bua gore mo government wa ha UDC ba go gona go na le private secretary after so long.
All right, thank you so much. Let's go here. Gebs FM, you're live. Good morning. Hi.
Honorable Dumelang.
Good morning.
Ke rapula Kolobat le teng. I just have two questions for you, Honorable. The first one, do you see yourself becoming state president in 2029? Kiputso Yanta. Dabobedi, I want you now, since Masisi has left power, I want you to rate them out of 10, and I want you to rate the 5 months that Reboko has been in power out of 10.
All right, thank you so much. Gebs FM, you're live. Good morning. Hi.
Good morning.
Right, ke go amogela.
Ya me we tsere sente Dumelang Saleshando. Ya go le ke tsama kholle gore le gore ke mmotsa me kitso wa itse gore balatedi ba UDC ba mo thobo samar ha e ka re bona go tsoma duo jana bo latone mme le neta itse wa hatsi a bo ara Saleshando ara ha ba ta gore ba go nyatse ba go thobose ko thobose UDC mme Saleshando we tsere sentare but a ka re pele ga o ke bua jalo ke re ene di maboko a ta utna boko a ba re nane ke ipoka batho ba ipoka ba buisang ke re go madi a teng kante ba tsedi o lo hela a le nna ke sone ke tsedi o lo hela a bua le Saleshando no na we tsere nda ba itse gore madi gayo a ba di ba se ka ba nya ne re tsedi go tsedi o lo le rena re tsedi o lo hela nya.
Thank you so much. Let's go here. Gebs FM, you're live. Good morning. Hi.
Good morning. How are you?
Morning. You're live on air.
I wanted to ask Saleshando ka kanya the DBS deal. At the time, Ike had president announced Leah Chema, so I think that was overshadowed. Was the tax cleared that company, or what is the issue?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Let's go here. Gebs FM, you're live. Good morning. Hi. Okay. You can send us your comments, your questions to +267 3956962. I guess
yes, I can. Yeah. Let's start with the most serious ones. I mean, a ka moso ha ke hirelwa driver ya go teanu ala ba bangwe ka nna le driver e go isang ke ke ya go ira press release. I think let's separate and get to the more serious ones, and let's start with the last one, DBS deal. Last week Monday, precisely 7 days ago, read a presentation ya Minister of Minerals, and some of the questions I was asking her is that ara go bona ba itshwara ka tsele ya harologaneng le government o mosha a bo mogologolo a re ta bona sephiri se se nnang teng ka ditumalano tsa rona tsa ditswamong se hokotsega go na go mo go teng Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative ke e maiteko a mahatse gore dio tse ditswamong di seka tsa irelwa mo sephiring Botswana o gana go nna mo teng. Botswana is one of the most secretive countries ka di tumalano tsa tsone tsa di-demand. Even your average, even your MP, as a member of parliament, I don't know anything more than you. You are kept in the dark. I have made pleadings on the floor of parliament. So on the tax thing, we've heard there was a tax dispute, but they are not telling us. But anyway, there's a parliamentary question coming. I was there dispute. Over and above, so that's it. Boko's response to Abu Agadi groundbreaking. Yes, I agree with the speaker. Can I give on the floor of parliament? Korwena, how solo hits in a week's time to 4,000 pula. We the same as each other. Or we can say, I don't have TV, I want to hear the groundbreaking. Now, surely that is responsible. For the president, Okari, can give one of the groundbreaking, give you me my dear day, get ahead of the I should rate UDC out of 10. Kana kibutse potso parliament into the minister of systems and the presidency. Retetso ga tweta utona we tla ko parliament o tsile go hapego ya the first 100 days.
Yes.
Ga ise atle. Me kana re tsamela 200. But I think it's only courteous that I allow him the time ya parliament e santse e setse gore ate go buisa parliament a reporte e be reta go tsibogela sa ta se reportang. So let's wait gone o diegile akere ba tsama ba ikganetsa bangwe ba re nya ga re thoke report ya 100 days ka gore ga re a hua 100 days re hule 5 years. And I've said again on the floor of parliament, that's also irresponsible. Go swana le ngwana o mora gore mpe report ya gago o hiritse standard one ba re nya ke hule 7 years go primary. How le motsadi should be worried.
But also because he's the one that also initiated the idea.
He
of
brought it up.
100
Yes, he brought it up.
Well. Yeah.
Do I anticipate or plan to be president of Botswana in 2029? I think the BCP will win 2029 general elections. I have no doubt about that in my mind, and that is what we are working towards. I remain optimistic because one of the fears in Botswana bananacho, how change a puso will the skies fall. Botswana now know. I think in the words of one local comedian who I enjoy listening to, but will it be me as president? I don't know. Congress party at the top later this year, the leader. But whoever is elected the leader of the Congress party will have a very good chance.
One thing, I think you've answered half those questions, but I just thought somebody sent a message asking about maybe what the BCP is doing to sort of like cement yourselves at the southern side of the country, because you seem to be northern based.
It's a very valid and fair observation. A lot of the constituencies that you know in BCP, these are from the north. Leadership forum just over a week back, and one of the key things is building the road to the south. It's a concept in the party where we need greater visibility, more south. So people will see the campaigns as we roll them out. Renali, unlike in the past, at least 2024 to 2029, there were Renali 2 MPs in the south, being Ramotswa, Le Katleng West. So Botswana ko South are waiting for us, but I want to
understand, I stand to be corrected. The Financial Intelligence Act and the Public Finance Management Act dictate how information on Botswana's economy is shared. Is there a gap in how maybe opposition parties access the financial data? Because I do understand prior 2024 elections, and hence our manifesto was the way it was. But it's very different case with the UDC, because now the Botswana is broke. No, we cannot quite give you what we had promised you, because we thought one and the actual is the other.
You know, how can I listen to Botswana say we are victims of how put it in writing, they'll never know about it. There's a lot of financial information available. Now, information of a financial nature. I think also Parliament 2004 Public Accounts Committee exposure to a whole lot of information before I contested for elections. Today, I feel overwhelmed with the amount of information. And they've never been able to answer. You can't say the foreign reserves. I get You can't say government investment account. It's a mahakai. You can't say determine and therefore the total amount really month to month, our costs hit the revenue we are collecting. Meaning what? Meaning that we either have to cut costs, and government did not choose to cut costs. They chose to increase costs.
And speaking of increasing costs, since you are here, let's also talk about it. It's a conversation that has been going on in the streets. The allowance. Yes. Maybe let me understand what the allowance is. Parliament.
I may not have the figures at the tip of my hand, but I can tell you, my parliament, the allowances so sometimes there's a sitting allowance. I know it's also caused controversy, but there is a sitting allowance. For every time when you attend parliament. You also have what you call a constituency allowance. How limo parliament central constituency you get less than constituency allowance ya mo parliament yoko Maung North in my case. Like I say, I may not have the figures, but I'm getting more than mo parliament wa Gaborone Central.
How much are you getting?
It's just, I think it's just about around 16,000
Constituency
allowance. And like I say, I may be...
It differs.
It differs.
Yeah.
When I let you mo parliament hiwa for free. Ga di flat tsa go parliament go tu dia ba kangwa. O duelo allowance. Again, it's something about between 10 and 15,000. Any re duelo rotle the year before elections. Ka gore di flat no go diretswe mo go tsone di ba kangwa. Okay? Me go le mo flateng yo ga o ene lo hela ntse o rekelwa, it's 3 bedrooms, o rekelwa malao, o rekelwa ditilo, o rekelwa fridge. So there is a furniture allowance.
How much is it?
You're going to get me there because, like I say, I don't really have the numbers for my parliament.
Yeah.
Because can I remember?
How much was yours?
I wouldn't know because remember I was not a backbencher. I was parliament in 2019. I was offered a flat mid-term when I lost leader of opposition, but I never got to occupy it because I preferred to stay at my house. But I was entitled to. In fact, there was furniture bought for the flat I was allocated. At the end of your term, it's not your furniture, it's government furniture.
I'm told leader of opposition gets close to a million.
We'll
bucks.
get there. We'll get there. Your neko flat in Yahoo, it's not your furniture. At the end of the term, it becomes part of government supplies. And where now you are allowed to buy, if you want, for the same price that anyone would buy parliamentary keys. The same goes for ministers, assistant ministers, speaker, deputy speaker, and leader of opposition. Yaanong tsa bone ga di kwalwe go go tsama parliament di kwadilweng teng. And I suspect gore tsama parliament ga di a kwalwa, it's the speaker's discretion or staffs of parliament. I may be wrong, but I think it's his discretion. Because I see ke book e kwadilwe gore ha o ne mo parliament you are allowed to furniture ya bokana. Yaanong bo minister le ba bangwe, there's something called a green book where the president writes gore these are the benefits that will be accorded to unfortunately it is. This is something I have brought up in the past on the floor of parliament. Maybe it's time to look at it gore can it be open to abuse? Because now I have seen instances where, like when I was leader of opposition and member of parliament for Gaborone Central, as leader of opposition, the president just took the green book. Leader of opposition shall not leave Gaborone unless if I authorize. And there's nothing you can do about it. So again, the president can choose. Or, amongst the former MPs,
so what you're saying is because the area of allowances has been a very huge controversy on the streets, the president, if so he wished, can eliminate some of the allowances that he wants
at the stroke of a pen. It's his decision.
Okay.
Oka decide gore humpieno ga ke hebo minister furniture at all. Which is not what I'm saying should happen. Because at the end of the day, the minister, just like the MP, will need furniture. That's the thing, I want accountability. Ya gore me do tse di setiwa jang.
Okay.
Go na le committee ke le nya setiwa bosheng e lebelang the conditions of service for members of parliament. I think these things should go there. O ska ga nna le gore mnyame president intlukana president le go ikwalela le ene wa ikwalela. If the president decides gore I want school fees allowance, do
you get school fees allowance?
No, I don't. I'm just giving an example. I'm not saying it's there.
Okay, let's go back to allowances. You spoke about sitting allowance, constituency allowance, free housing, except for 10K for those who do not stay. Go the government parliamentary house.
Yes.
That's what it's called.
Plus
right?
minus
10K.
I gave wrong figures.
And then there's furniture allowance for that particular house.
Yes.
And then what other allowance do you have? I've heard of dog allowance.
I have heard of dog allowance, but I have not seen it. I have perused the green book. I have not seen I think it's, and that is why I think those responsible for some of these allowances need to answer. I mean, up until recently, I had a dog, but I've never claimed any dog allowance. Unfortunately, we've lost the dog to some illness. So there is an entertainment allowance, I think, for ministers, assistant ministers, and leader of the opposition. It ranges somewhere around 500 pula a month. I get it. And by the way, a lot of these allowances are also applicable, a lot of them, I must say, are also applicable to members of the judiciary. Yes, I saw that. Yeah. They are also entitled to the furniture. And the condition applies. If you leave office within the question furniture and value, you forfeit it to government. If you want to buy it, you buy it at its market value.
Are those the only allowances you are getting?
That's the ones I can remember seated here.
Yeah.
But I have
are you
no
getting
problem.
$1 million for allowance furniture?
I'm entitled to. I'm entitled to, but it's not my furniture. Hela go to yaga ne kintu amu leader of opposition in the past. If I get it and I lose the position, it goes to government. It's government property.
Okay.
I think this is what people do.
Do you get it in cash or it's a voucher?
No, you get furniture to a value of. And by the way, it's not for 1 year. It's for 5 years. I am not saying I support or I don't support any amount. I just say maybe we should debate from a point of an informed position.
Yeah. Exactly.
Every year.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be outright
and
robbery.
let me hear your thoughts on, I mean, because how we got to the allowances was you're talking about cost cutting and how the president seems to not be doing enough in terms of, cutting costs. And a lot of people really do believe what are your thoughts regarding this? Do you think or is it enough according to you as leader of opposition?
I know it's an emotional issue. Everyone you ask in the street, if I were to ask to give you the file, go sinyami. So I don't think the way to go about it is just to throw a question. Do you think they should get more?
Yeah.
Let's be objective. I get it. Compare. I haven't done that study, but I think we can do an objective way of assessing a reasonable pay for a political officer.
Yeah.
To go there and perform diligently as a representative. Yeah. I mean, as it is today, I'm presiding over a budget of 10 million pula annually for the constituency projects. It takes a lot of thought and effort. This time, I was out in Sankuyu, inspecting schools, or what can we do here? I get it. But if you are going to say, Mutimen transport, it means I'll sit here and decide, how do you make laws? Yeah. I once came up with a law in Parliamentary, in Freedom of Information Act.
Yes.
I had to transport myself to neighboring countries, to attend conferences, to benchmark. I had to employ lawyers with my own salary. So, Baba Tangore, my parliament overpaid. I think that they were me. At less than what we are getting.
We've run out of time. Let me just go through some of the comments that are coming through. This one says, "Hi G, I'm UDC member, but I really love Saleshando. He does research. This is Westman and Gabs." And then this one says, Okay. This one is for me. And this one says, Penyo, okay. How do we justify setting allowance because you have a monthly salary? So why pay someone to go to work? Is that fraud? This is Murubisi in Francistown. And then this one says, Baba very beta, okay. And then this one says, we have a lot of messages that are coming through here. Okay, let me go through some voice notes, Mr. Saleshando.
Morning. Yeah, Saleshando, no pusher that will re go lebile morwarre UDC re tlhophileng ya so ene campaign o rang di UDC di pele gona le ene campaign le mo puso a di tshwana go tlhelelelelele ya no re na le tsholelo mo go ena re itse
All right, can Comrade Dumelang touch on the issue of DIS, DG and the PSP who are currently serving UDC government despite many press statements of the UDC condemning the DG? And then this one says, Morning, with the current situation, with the current economy situation, and then this one says, Mr. Saleshando is correct on many things, but the problem that I see is that Botswana are still celebrating change of government, not genuine change to their lives, and that has affected their judgment on issues that impact their lives, like healthcare, education, economy. Okay, and then this one says, hey, let the Lou also touch Kanyat last size. They said for student-teacher ratio, 1:25, now 1:40, more than what was on the ground, which is 1:30. But classes. So my question is, the class or the strategies tse neng go dirisiwa ke BDP, why ba sa tswelele ka sone ba ne ba sa itse gore ga gona ditlase by the time they were writing their manifesto kana ke gore ba batla go focusa teachers. Okay, I'm going to end there. If not enough time, you'll just touch on them. Yeah.
Yes, I think on the DIS, Totahela, this is an embarrassment of what the UDC is doing. Before elections, Nerdumalan, or the Director General as a starting point, must go. When a lady judgments are court, the DIS has become, they use the words, a rogue institution. But the UDC has decided that they are pumping more money into the DIS. They are keeping the top leadership. And I think really, I wish I had answers for Tata King. And that is what we are always saying to them. Now we will remind you of Maikano. Don't tell me what get say Yes, the UDC in opposition said all the right things. In fact, now my argument even before elections was that me UDC, you are over promising. Ba na le dipato tsa gore ke ndika ska tsa iragala class size ke ngwe ya tsone ba itletse class size le 1:30 rona le bone re dumana gore e hukudiwe within the first 100 days ba ntse mekwalo ya gore re oketsa class size a bana ba khotlagane ya no mo di classroom. But you know mongwe na re ke batata utona dire given the state of the economy.
Yes.
Given the state of the economy, the first thing you do, like I was saying earlier, ke go reduce the costs. He had promised a smaller cabinet. Remember Hali ko press conference ya kwa ntana bua tota na bata bo minister ba le 10 hela. Ke ba ko Namibia. They are in the same position as us. Prime Minister or President of Namibia, who could the size of cabinet? Ronald really the biggest possible size of cabinet. Ronald assistant minister. At least one former assistant minister has come up into the open, I think through social media. Hey, assistant minister. There is no value addition. But specially elected councillor. It's a huge cost. But constituency allowance. As we speak now, constituency allowance. Yes, but but it's within his powers. We are having an electricity crisis as we speak. This slows down the economy. Remember there was a time when the UN go USA meeting go Ramaphosa announced for Amres because how does an electricity? The economy slows down. Rona we are in a crisis. Companies this for business. And the president and the minister responsible are quiet. What we need is also a clear strategy for investment. Again, last week I worked at Minister of Minerals. Minister oil. We did a commercial player and not they are there to keep what we call strategic reserves. Last week, my driver had to queue the whole day. Hotel petrol. If you drive along the road to Pakala,
there's always traffic.
There's always jams. Why? Because government has taken a decision for Botswana oil. Yes, in a commercial player, any commercial player. So very soon, Zimbabwe, because the model they have chosen, maintain a commercial player in the petroleum industry, has not worked anyway. Namibia tried it. But le ga gore ba bolela bona ba tsaya tshwetso gore that is, and it's going to slow and kill the economy.
Yeah.
Government has no targets. Like the BDP, they don't want any targets. We should be having targets. Tsa gore within the first 12 months, re akanya gore taitla to really kae. Re ndaba kept quiet about target for job creation. Mme kana ba rile between 450,000 and 500,000, meaning gore they were nearly full employment in 2029. It doesn't look like it's happening. They promised a growth rate of 10% per annum. Gompieno re tsamaya ko, we are below 5% targeted. So o kgona go bona gore a government is ignoring its pledges that it made.
Of the issue, not coming out to the public to engage the people on what's happening and so on and so forth. I actually reached out to, one of the people within, and they said, there's different styles of leadership, and theirs, they prefer to do the work over telling people what we're doing. I want you to talk about how wrong or right this kind of leadership is, especially to the electorates, people by now they voted you in power, to act than to go to the people and tell them this is what is happening.
You've got to keep people informed. The reality is that no government in the world says busy behind the scenes. You've got to account. How it's a form standard 1? You as a child, there's an accountability report. Ga ore ba tsedi ala gore na ke a ithuta ga kena sepele nako tsa di report le tla ntiela nako ba ba le kang gore nya gora gore sengwe sa diragala. I think they're taking their vote lightly.
Okay.
Thank
you so much, Honorable Saleshando, for coming through. We've run out of time. I've kept you far too long. And to everybody else, the live stream is there on our Facebook page. Yes. You can go check it out, watch it over and over again, and of course give him feedback.
Yes.
I think you appreciate the feedback, don't you?
Oh, I certainly do. Yeah. I take feedback, positive or negative.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Have yourself an amazing day.
Enjoy your day. It's always a pleasure to come over.
I think at the end of the day, the main question which really he was here for was to understand what goes behind the processes of making a manifesto.
Yes.
Because I think for the past 4 months, we've been we're broke, or we didn't know.
Yeah. When we should have known.
When we should have known, or you should have known.
Yes.
What do we deserve as the electorate? Sometimes I find that we are quite, how do you...
A manifesto is a social contract. You must demand the implementation of a contract. It's unlike a legal contract. It's just that you can't sue. You sue through voting. So there's a contract in place. There's a social contract in place. And to the voter is to demand that those in government respect the contract they offered. We didn't impose it. They offered a contract.
Yeah.
They must deliver on the contract.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Power to engage.